Hello, collective, and welcome to a timeless reading. This reading is what is your personal or possible inertia. All right, inner inertia. Inner inertia is the conquest that I created, more or less. That is suggestive in trying to find closure in the inner dwellings of who and what we are that is stagnant. And that stagnation may bring forth questions, curiosities, notions, and all that jazz. And whatever it may bring, it requires an answer. So we're looking to scope into navigating and funneling the core version of the internal us and seeing if anything that comes out within the reading is something that will help you bring closure to clarity, because clarity is a great sense of closure. All right, so let's get a few things going. Bear in mind that this is one of two sister channels that I run. I, 7th, am a master healer. This is the channel for sick men. If you'd like to get more access to further content, reach our sister channel of Bastet via the description box below. All right. Somewhere you'll also find access to my website where you find out more information as to who I am as 7th, as well as booking services that I have made available for you via that. Stumbly. Please remember that this is, yes, a timeless message. Whatever brings you here is in true form to seeing whether anything for you is meant for you to take. Utilize your discernment to take what you like of the reading and leave anything behind that you may not have liked. All right, what is my personal and or possible inertia? All right, I am 7th, aka Master 7th. I read these energies for you. I'm a master healer again that provides remote wellness alignments and tarot intuitive insights, such as this. 3 of Wands. Okay. Ace of Cups. 5 of Pentacles. There are a lot of things already in motion that are not being held accountable via the internal workings of who and what you are, or the internal conversation that you may not be having with yourself to grant yourself more disclosure towards closure. Disclosure to closure. There are a lot of internal traumas that are in need of, quite honestly and blatantly, healing vibes. All right, they need some coddling, they need and require your attention before we access and open up another part of you. So it's to say, more or less, you already know some aspects of yourself that are stagnant of you already. You already know right now aspects of your life that are in pain, aspects of your future self that you'd like to possibly change or grant access to grow into. There are so many dwellings with the internal world where the internal world is saying, no, I don't want to open up the world more and expose you to more if you haven't settled the internal emotional chaos just yet. Yeah. 10 of Swords, you're immersed already with all that and then some. All right. So what is required is really just more time, more unsolicited time spent with yourself. And if that's to give you a task of a homework assignment and tell you, practice your coping skills, or try to find a list of various options of potential coping skills that you can address or engage in to help you settle the internal storm, because there's a lot of there's so much happening. All right, there's too much happening. The cup runneth over. Okay. It's not a laughing matter, but the cup runneth over of like the internal dialogue is I'm fucking tired. I'm exhausted and giving a shit, taking care of shit, not being able to fix shit. Like it's just bleh. All right. Uh, yeah, but I just zoned in on these pentacles, and I was more interested into this little area that you can't really see. You know, I know it's not a pentacle because this is only 5 pentacles, but it almost gives the illusion that one wants to come in, or there might be another one, or the mirage is giving me the illusion that there is one there, and it's not. Once you look clearer, it's definitely not a pentacle, right? It's whatever color it happens to be to read the energy of the card, which is number 5. Okay, so, but the irony is that you can cross off any of the points of a star and see a V to indicate 5, right? So you have multiple 5s here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5 5s. It's 25. So every quarter is 25. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times 25. It's 125. So, in credit to understanding that it takes a 180-degree pivot to get out of a situation, you are, let's see, you are 55 degrees away from further disclosure of closure. So specific. Yeah? So in essence, it won't require much. All right, just a bit more than what you've put in already into the internal justification and addressing your internal wars. Okay, we're not asking you to bring resolution. We're asking you to bring some type of change, and that change will bring collective changes. Okay, bring a partial change. Okay, to what you can do. Meaning, if you're someone who usually ignores your emotions, but this time one of the aspects that you won't ignore to change is knowing that maybe one of your coping skills is drawing. So you know that once you get triggered with that emotion, what you're going to try to change and put into active acknowledgement to show up to that change is about a few moments in time of your time and attention and focus to this drawing interest. Because what you're doing is you're taking your subconscious emotions attached to your conscious awareness of such emotions and bridging them to an activity. And that activity will help disintegrate or help also at the same time create a fundamental relationship between the subconscious parts of yourself and the conscious parts of yourself that you are, as you are growing, as you're evolving, as you're drinking, as you're consuming, when you're filtering, just who you are is battling the conscious self and the subconscious self and vice versa. So it won't need much, but it will require a lot of your devotion to showing up to make to bring major disclosure to certain closures that you'd like to make amends to and with. Yeah, 5 of Cups. Yeah, 8 of Pentacles. It's very clear in saying that you may be telling yourself mentally that it's impossible. And the mental then triggers the physical to behave in that behavior of impossibility. Meaning, all right, you say it's impossible. We're not going to exert any time and attention to making it then possible. Yet there are pulsations within acknowledging that emotion that are in contrast to what it is you want to say no to or ignoring, which is the desire possibly to change. It's the pressure of knowing that maybe you're feeling the opportunity behind your back not really in focus. All right, maybe you're not really seeing what you do have. Maybe you're just filled with so much impurity that it would be hard to convince you to look at the gratuitous aspects that are still in your environment. They're not obsolete. They're not deleted because they're present in the pain. And the pain is triggering you to act. And a lot of you are having a hard time acting in that emotion. And that is a problem to the feelings that make you feel very real. And maybe also triggered in fight or flight at this time. But these emotions have to be given credit to existing. They have to be accepted in wanting attention. And they need to be transactionalized to a linear form of justice that you can bring your time and attention to, that won't have you feeling anchored and diminished and in pain and disconnected or in strife or just not aligned in the purpose and the directional pursuit that you want to be in. Yeah, it's all the emotional aspects. It's really the which wolf are we feeding right now. But right now we are not interested in having the power to feed which good wolf or bad wolf. It's more or less knowing that the bad wolf has been activated, or the good wolf is not feeling in high spirits, or the bad wolf is not satiated in aspects of getting attention. It's a full immersive experience to emotionally collect yourself, emotionally understand all the droplets of your emotions, all the reasons as to why they accumulate and formulate the pond of either wisdom, integrity, pain, or however that unfolds in your reality. There's a need to environmentally detox, okay, whether that's introducing your world to crystals or changing physical, changing the layout of certain rooms, the energetical flow. All right. Some people are also more inclined at this time to prepare themselves, quote unquote, for seasonal changes. So whatever is the most prioritizing inclination to lean in is what will be the loudest inclination that you cannot ignore. So if that means going into a certain season, having to do some type of lessening or including of physical activity, lessening or including more resources to coping mechanisms or resources to grant yourself permission to do so, or finagling the external world of financial responsibility and reassessing, realigning, reacknowledging. Like there are seasonal transmitters of wavelengths of priority that are going to kind of collectively hit the collective and individually strike reason within them to show up to these callings. And they're all going to be internal callings of conviction. You're going to feel, hear, see the message internally occur. It's not going to be an ad saying, click here for this to get this. It doesn't say, do this for that. It is absolutely soaked into the skin of your experiences, the heartbeat of your thinking, the concert of your making, that of who and what you would like to become is generating that dialogue. What comes of you and what returns to you. That's a strictly a very divine relationship to have with yourself. Okay. Now it doesn't matter the players, it doesn't matter the contenders, because whomever they are, whatever they are to you, will only be accredited to playing the game in accordance with and along with you, not against you. Because in that world there is no such thing as emotional. The emotion is a consequence to decisions. So the consequence of emotions is then also then a lesson, which divinity is emotionless. And the human journey within this divinity is the journey of humanity. So whatever gets you aligned with purpose, aligned with siphoning your own scripture of thinking, scripture of application, internal application, and external validation of that internal application will be the true justice as to where you are in the frequency of the stock market of your comfort in life, or successes in life. Your algorithm will be completely dictated by the internal dwellings of who and what you are. It's as if the internal no longer cares to say, I want more of the external. It's more or less saying, give me the freedom to explore all the aspects of who and what I am. Because I think society puts a big wedge to personal exploration of identity for a majority of people. All right. For the majority of people who will have to and keep their foot entangled in society, also do it for all the reasons why society is the collective pattern that it is and how it influences in continuum. However, there's an individuality that can tend to get very lost in collective mind frame of thinking. And that is a concern to the individual approach of uniqueness that makes you a bystander and a co-conspirator of this galaxy, of this dimension, of this time and space. And to reach further clarity as to who and what you are is an injustice for also allowing there to be a witness of a fact that you were never allowed to be comfortably yourself. Having a foot in society, a lot of people tend to say that on the personal quest, their foot in society doesn't align with their true purpose, what they would want to do. Maybe because what they really want to do isn't as financially successful, or there are too many anxieties to try to figure out how to make that successful, because the independent journey to success is very daunting for an individual to relearn or to learn that they have the ability to achieve. I mean, this is circumstantial. It's not for everyone. I mean, there are a lot of people who are, you know, introverts or extroverts, where the level of what I'm saying might either fit or not. However, I would still stress, no matter what their personality is, whether that's introvertedness or extrovertedness, there's still a divinity within that a person can will and or can learn to access, and learn that they can gain full sovereignty in giving themselves permission to explore all aspects of who they are. There shouldn't be any more seclusions. There shouldn't be any double lives. There shouldn't be you're this personality over here and another personality over there. And if you were to ever have a collective, we're all coming to see you, be surprised of whom and what you're capable of being. The shock value of lies is no longer more or less allowed, especially if it dampens the integrity, sustainability, consciousness within someone, because that's emotionally and spiritually bullying. No information, if vital information that is being withheld, is a lie. And that speaks on so many aspects, especially politically right now, on a global aspect, and also then simultaneously in a micro fashion. It resides somewhere. If it's collective in a mass, it's selective in a micro. And to figure out if we're co-conspirators of that crime is to figure out within ourselves if we're comfortable with eyes open, if we're even more comfortable with eyes closed. Because boy, is there a fucking struggle. There's a struggle for people to feel comfortable within their own skin. And that is fucking mind-blowing. There's a difference between growing and learning and exploring and personality and vivaciousness, desire, likability, changes of mood, attitude, hormones. Like there's so many things that the body goes through that is the struggle. But to say that there is an identity complex for giving yourself permission to entertain these struggles is argumentative, to say the least. We have the Empress. So, I mean, I don't know what to say about this one, because how do you even want me to go about this? When it comes to figuring out in your life whether you ever had the quote unquote blessing or permission to take control over yourself and gain your own authenticity and remain vulnerable while creating that authenticity. And let's hope that you've been protected in that exploration. So let's assume almost impossible, but let's assume you've been always vulnerable, you've been always diligent in remaining authentic, and there was no violence done upon you. There was no condescending attitude. There was no backhanded compliment. There was no lack of support. If on the contrary, there's nothing but support. In lieu of that, we would be much further into accepting that the sensory reactions that our body transmits us through our nerve receptors is a unique one. It is one that once you get to explain your reaction to something, it may allude to using words that you and I can both use to explain a situation or explain a feeling. Yet what transpired as the feeling itself, you and I will never know how different or the same it may have been. That's how private that world is. That's how perfect form. You will forever remain in some way or another a secret to other people, because there's always going to be a little tiny droplet of that is your fucking personal business and no one needs to know about that, which is just you. And you get to be you. And if people are exhausted by you being you, well, then fuck them. At the same time, if you being you is ising and being in front of other individuals, there is a responsibility of the feedback either given or not given by these individuals that needs to be held in accountability towards you and the environment that also is you, that takes up that space. That is our responsibility. So there has been an ironic comfort to that I cannot explain in this reading very well, besides saying that whatever faith you may admit to have, or even also not having, whatever the answer is, there's a high sense of easiness and comfort to know that you can finite your own resolution of making up that point. I don't know how to explain that in any other way than the way that that just came out. All right, let's keep moving. There is no other way besides you expanding into the versions of what has triggered you within this reading, what your eyes are making you think about. Quite literally, maybe you're looking at something right now off the screen and whatever you're looking at is triggering you. Or maybe eventually you're looking off the screen and you're not really realizing what you're actually looking at, because while you are then becoming aware of what you're looking at, you realize you were quote unquote zoned out and was thinking about something else, right? There are so many things where the body takes in information where you're fucking late to the party of how fast it took in that information, how fast it processed that information, and what it self intellectualizes as an answer to that experience. It's called instinctual. You instinctively react, and that process, that reaction, is much faster than your logic. It's much faster than your emotional processing. And all that, giving yourself permission to again be vulnerable, to be authentic, to be in a realm of humility and humbleness, will generate these aspects that are multidimensional to linearly get you to a closer disclosure of what inner inertia could be within you. And while you're doing that, you're bringing the inner inertia fluidity and purpose and regeneration and rejuvenation. So far, there's a lot of lisping happening in this reading. All right. It's quite interesting, to say the least. Okay. But there's so much emotion wanting to communicate that be mindful when you're in this state of heightened emotion, moving forward, where you may need to come to realize whom you have in your audience. This could be about a sense of accountability, of making sure you don't utilize the wrong words to inflict unnecessary wounds, or also paying attention to who is in the audience, if they're mentally capable to handle the mental aptitude of your opinion, because maybe they're just not in that level. And sorry to say it, but maybe you're wasting your time trying to emotionally explain something, especially if you're going to then admit to whatever I just said and said, well, I keep saying that shit over and over again. Stop saying it. You got to learn to be quiet. Actually, I was very nice with that message. I heard, to be specifically, you need to learn how to shut up. But that doesn't sound so nice, right? But the gavel of justice feels secure once we understand, oh, I shouldn't probably pivot from this, whatever this is. So however that conviction leads to you and lends itself to you, and you reply to it and you justify it, that's all you and your control. Doesn't matter what words were triggered, how it was said. So far we have, excuse me, the Queen of Pentacles with the Chariot. Okay. A lot of you who came into this reading feeling broken know that there are energies around you that you have entertained, and you being you, that is in more aspects than one, your spiritual team. I'm hearing like spiritual gang, all right? And they are intently looking into the stratosphere of what it is that you are thinking at, meaning they're more or less kind of like looking into the future and making sure that you arrive there. They're not fucking around anymore. A lot of you have and are considered the black sheep of the family, okay? The outlier, the outcast, have been outcasted because the way you think or emotionally relate to your empathy and the empathy of others is a different narrative. It's a different jurisdiction. It's a different zip code. And people are like, well, if you live in a different zip code, why do I fucking care? And, but at the same time, go to a fucking church at the end of the block, all the zip codes land up together and they look at you and you're like, why is this person glowing so much? Anyway, it was so interesting how that came out. All right, we have the Eight of Wands here. I don't know if I showed you with the King of Cups, but that Eight of Wands energy is matching. I said your ancestral team or your spirit team, your spiritual gang, all right, is in very much focus in the future ahead, all right? That's where the Eight of Messages came out, Eight of Wands, saying, yeah, you heard correctly, we're fucking going there, all right? And where are we going? We're going right back to where we need to be. Meaning your future self that you want to reach is exactly in perfect form now, because the Three of Wands, all those wands, the Eight of Wands, are reaching the Three of Wands. And why does the Three of Wands look important? Well, it's because it led the reading in the very beginning. The Three of Wands kicked off the whole entire reading. So the energy that you're anticipatory of, desiring the disclosure of closure, is being granted by you just focusing on the internal dwellings that are very rich in your unfoldings right now, and have enough inertia to detox the impurities that you consider your downfall or your demise are not in alignment of you, but it requires you to justifyingly put these pieces together with just mere reflection. Okay, whether that is then to be utilized and you hear yourself being triggered with meditate, daydream, coping skills, physical activity, lessening it or extending it, activating it or not, no longer arguing the same topic over and over. There's a lot of responsibility to bring credit to all the things that you've already worked on, which means the aspect of your maturity as to why you have done what you do, or why you need to continue proving your point, no longer repeating certain patterns. Some of you are losing friction, putting the same amount of focus onto something, and that's absolutely the definition of insanity, because they're expecting different results and they're not coming. And I'm being told that's it for your collective reading. All right. With that being said, I'm hoping that you took whatever you can from this reading. And if you like further content, to check out my channels. All right. I'm wishing you a wonderful morning, noon, or night, wherever you are in the ether of time and space. And may you keep flowing, growing, and glowing. Take care.